Okay, welcome to this edition of How Stuff Works. I'm going to demonstrate, here we go, here's my F-150 2004. The four-wheel drive system is busticated on it. It was making this horrible noise. And so I'm going to tell you how the auto hubs work on a Ford F-150. So first, let's begin. Obviously I've got the truck jacked up and I've taken off the disc brakes and this thing right here, which is the hub. And it's this and this device right here. And I don't know how well you can see that, but there we go. You can see the splines that will mesh with this. That's what's making the terrible noise. So how does four-wheel drive work on these vehicles? Well, it's actually a very simple method. And for those of you that are old school, like old school, I mean somebody who's, say, older than 35, you may or may not recall that in four-wheel drive and older vehicles, you would actually have to get out and manually lock the hub. So, you get out in a snowstorm, lock the hub, put it in the four-wheel drive, and then you could go. When you want to take it out of four-wheel drive, you hop out and you unlock the hub. Well, somewhere along the line, the manufacturers figured out a way to do that without having to get out of the truck. And that's the problem that we're having here with this little device. And it's actually a very simple device, and it's all predicated on this tube right here that comes down. You can see it running up into the engine well. This is a vacuum tube. And the way that it works, and I was explaining this to my son Jeremy, is cars rely quite a bit on a vacuum system. In fact, old cars couldn't run without a vacuum system because the vacuum was used to advance the ignition, the points, if you remember, the overoder cap and so forth. Nowadays they're used for other things, and in particular this problem here, they're used for activating the four-wheel drive. So I knew I had a problem up here because it was making this horrible noise. And of course the hive mind that is called the internet, when I went out, they talked about the fact that the solenoid actuator in this, there was a TSB, a technical service bulletin for it, and the first thing you would want to do is replace it. Well, I know for a fact mine had been replaced under a TSB years ago, but I did the due diligence and tested it out. And the way that I did that is to disconnect this hose right here and use a handy-dandy vacuum tool right here, hook it up and check to see if it's drawing vacuum. And what at first, because I didn't appear to be getting vacuum up here, so solenoid, pulled it off the solenoid. I could obviously tell I was getting vacuum on one end of the hose. So I plugged in that end into the solenoid, and then I immediately got vacuum on the other end of the solenoid, so I knew the solenoid was good. At that point I figured, well, maybe I've got a leak in the hose somewhere, but somewhere along the line when I plugged everything back in, the vacuum system was working just fine, so that, like I said, when the truck's running, it's drawing about 20, I think this is in PSI, I don't know if it's in inches mercury. Nope, it's in inches mercury. It's drawing about 20 inches of mercury vacuum on it. And actually I don't know if there's a torr scale on here too. No, but anyway, when this is working, and I'll demonstrate in just a second, the natural state of this truck is to not be disengaged from four-wheel drive. And I learned that the hard way one day when I shut my truck off in neutral and coasted down the hill, and then all of a sudden my hubs really started making a noise, and it dawned on me what was going on. Well, like I said, when the truck's not running, this is actually engaged with this, or semi-engaged anyway. So to disengage from four-wheel drive, as it turns out, you need to have vacuum on here, and you'll see in just a second when I demonstrate how this all works. So you can see when there's a little bit of give when I push on this right here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is start the truck, and I'll start it in four-wheel drive. And you can see that this is still out right here. I can feel the splines. Never mind the exhaust leak in the truck. And now we'll take it out of four-wheel drive.
See, and there's the problem. Notice how that had a hard time going in. I had to give it a little push for it to go in. So there's something obstructing this from going in. But just like this, right here, is how it wants to be. You notice how it's pulled in from the vacuum that's drawing on it. And if I pull the vacuum tube, you'll see it pops out. That's probably the easiest way. Put the vacuum tube back on. It's just easier said than done. There we go. Vacuum tube's going on. I'll just give it a little push and it goes in. And that's my problem right there, is this isn't moving in and out freely enough. So I need to tackle that problem. But that's the whole basis for this video. That's how four-wheel drive, the auto-locking hubs work on the Ford F-150 2004 anyway.